Let's start with the biggest mindset shift that makes painting landscapes a whole lot easier, and that is translate, don't copy. If you try to copy a landscape exactly the way you see it, it almost never works. And that's because your job as a painter isn't to copy reality, it is to translate it. Nature is incredibly complex with endless colors, shapes, and values happening all at once, but a painting has to be simple and clear to work. Photos make this even harder because they flatten space, exaggerate contrast, and hide depth. So as a painter, you need to simplify shapes, adjust the values, and redesign the scene to communicate depth and focus. Once you stop copying and start translating, landscape painting becomes easier and you have much more success. Now that you understand that, let's talk about choosing a reference. Stop caring about the subject matter in your landscape paintings. When I'm choosing a reference photo, the number one thing I look for is clear, simple shapes. The more obvious and readable the shapes are, the easier the painting will be. I'm also really paying attention to the lines of the scene. Are there strong, clear lines that lead the eye and organize the composition? What I'm drawn to isn't just pretty scenery. I'm drawn to interesting, dynamic shapes. Sometimes the same scene in flat lighting looks messy and unclear, but in different lighting, those shapes suddenly become bold and simple. And that's the version I want to paint. Clear shapes are what make landscape paintings readable and paintable. So once you got a good reference, the next step is to design the scene. Before I paint anything, I always decide what the painting is about. Every strong composition has one main idea. It might be the sky, the river, or the mountain. Once I know the main subject, I crop or adjust the reference to emphasize it. This is where paintings start to feel intentional instead of accidental. Composition is simply choosing what matters most and designing the scene around it. If everything feels important, nothing stands out. And the easiest way to design a strong painting is to simplify the values first. I call this a value map. One of the most powerful tools in landscape painting is simplifying the scene into three values: light, midtone, and dark. Before worrying about color or detail, I do a small sketch showing only three value groups. But I'm not just looking for balance, I'm looking for dynamic balance. I want it to be obvious which value takes up the most space and which takes up the second most and which takes up the least. That clear hierarchy is what creates energy and interest. I also try to place my focal point where the lightest light and darkest dark touch. That contrast naturally pulls the viewer's eye. Now, I'm going to take a quick break here and assume that if you're watching this video, you're into landscape painting, and there's probably nothing more important to know with landscape painting than composition. It's the first thing you do in the process, and I always say if you don't get the composition right, it doesn't matter how well you paint your painting. That's why I've made my free composition coaching guide. It's a series of short, easy to understand videos that simplifies composition to something that you can actually implement in your next painting. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. The next thing I do is do a small color study. Before working on a large canvas, I always recommend doing small studies. 6 by 8 inches or smaller works great. Working small forces you to simplify and focus on what really matters. It also lets you experiment with color and composition quickly. If something feels cluttered or awkward in a small study, that's a sign it doesn't belong in the painting. And if you can't make it work small, you definitely won't make it work big. Now let's look at the basic value structure of a landscape. Don't get this confused with the value map that I was just talking about. This is different. Most landscapes naturally fall into 4 main value planes. The sky is usually the lightest, the ground is the second lightest, slanted planes like hills and mountains are darker, and vertical objects like trees and buildings are the darkest. Photos often hide this structure, which is why paintings can feel flat. But once you understand these value relationships, your landscapes instantly become more believable. All right, now it's time to start painting. When you begin painting, resist the urge to add details right away. Start by blocking in large, flat shapes of color. Think in terms of big value masses like sky, ground, and trees. Your goal is to make the painting read clearly from a distance. If the big shapes work together, the painting will feel strong even without detail. Details should enhance the structure, not fix it. And here's the simple process I use for every painting. I call it the 3 S's of painting: simplify, shape, and sharpen. Every painting moves through 3 main stages. First, I simplify, blocking into big shapes and values. Second is shape, adding smaller value shapes to create form and adjusting edges to create texture. Third is sharpen. This is where I move around the painting, fixing anything that I feel needs fixing, and pushing and pulling, whether that's color, value, drawing, edges, or composition. When you work in this order, painting becomes more controlled and much less frustrating. Now let's go through some common elements and how to paint them. When painting water, think in layers. Start by painting what's under the water first. Then add the reflections on top. Reflections are rarely perfect mirrors. They usually are darker and slightly shift in color depending on the water. Another really important thing is to work wet into wet. Using soft, fluid edges helps communicate the smooth, flowing quality of water. Too many hard edges will make water feel stiff and unnatural. Now, trees are another area where a small change can make a big difference. With trees, start with value before detail. Block in the light side and the shadowed side first. On the light side, use the darkest light you can, then block in the shadowed side clearly darker. After that, shape the tree by cutting back into it using the negative space around it. You'll probably be surprised at how few of shapes and values you actually need. A lot of times, fewer shapes work better than lots of tiny ones. Mountains are another subject where simplifying makes a big difference. When painting mountains, the best advice I can give you is fewer shapes. In real life, you see tons of cracks, ridges, and little details, but if you try to paint all of that, it quickly becomes a mess. Instead, connect shapes together and think in large, simpler planes of light and shadow. Fewer, cleaner shapes make mountains feel solid and powerful. Too many shapes just create noise. Now let's talk about skies, since they're such a huge part of landscapes. When painting skies, avoid using one flat color. The sky is usually lighter near the horizon and darker as it goes upwards. Create soft value transitions instead of hard lines. There's often a temperature shift too, warmer near the horizon and cooler above. One big tip with skies is to keep your color clean. Unlike other parts of the painting where mixed color can add color harmony, dirty color in the skies make them feel heavy, especially when cutting in around trees. Clean your brush often so the sky color stays fresh and light. Now let's talk about your brushwork in a landscape. Brushwork helps describe the form of a landscape. A helpful trick is to imagine rain falling on the scene and have your brush go in the direction it would flow. So let your strokes follow the hills and the slopes and tree shapes. As far as depth goes, horizontal strokes tend to sit back in space, whereas vertical strokes come forward. Thoughtful brushwork can add depth and movement to your landscape. But probably the biggest thing that adds depth to your landscape is color, more specifically atmospheric perspective. As things move further away, color slowly disappears. First yellows fade, then reds fade, and distant objects become cooler and bluer. Foreground areas stay warmer and more colorful. One thing most students miss is the middle stage. They go from bright yellow-green in the foreground straight to blue in the distance. But in the middle ground, the yellow drops out and the greens often become richer and slightly redder before turning cool. That middle shift is what makes depth feel really natural. And the last thing I want to talk about is probably the thing that's going to help you improve the fastest at everything we just talked about. And that's observing from life. If you can paint outdoors, that's fantastic. But even observing carefully helps a lot. Pay attention to how light affects color and value throughout the day. Take photos, videos, or notes of what you notice. You can also do quick color studies without worrying about composition. The better you observe from life, the easier this translation process will become. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like some more in-depth lessons and tutorials, I have that on Paint Coach Studio, which I'll put a link to in the description of this video. If you'd like to get quick 1-minute lessons, I got those on my Instagram at Forza43. All right, I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.